that they're not only interested in extracting resources but partnering with African countries to create local value chains. She further called on a partnership that will see them present at COP28 a joint proposal for global carbon pricing.
And dear friends, when you say that Africa's first priority is to grow your economy, yes, and lift as many people as possible out of poverty, yes, you're so right. Climate action is part of the solution. You are part of the solution with your huge potential for renewable energy and clean hydrogen, your critical raw materials, your incredible nature and biodiversity, and your young workforce. You can help clean up global energy systems and supply chains while creating good jobs here and economic opportunities yet that your people demand, rightly so.
President William Ruto, on his part, has continued to emphasize the need for all nations to invest in climate change. He says that despite a few countries being the reason for the negative effects, the outcome affects the world as a whole.
Global warming cannot be mitigated by air conditioning our little pockets and corners of the world. Prosperity cannot and must not be pursued in a zero-sum exclusive fashion, because the resulting injustice and inequality are the drivers of inequity, poverty, conflict, and activities that threaten biodiversity and encourage pollution.
Rwandan President Paul Kagame also raised concern over negotiations and designed policies on climate change that are ultimately not implemented.
We cannot just keep talking about it without doing what is required to fix the problem. This is unfair, but in the long run, playing the blame game is not the answer. A more pragmatic approach is for Africa to be a key player in the search for global climate solutions. Africa stands united and should remain so in this and in its position.
More than 500 MPs from across Africa are today convening at Parliament buildings to discuss legislative interventions to mitigate effects of climate change. The Africa Climate Change Parliamentary Dialogue meeting is part of the inaugural Africa Climate Summit that comes to an end today. The conference, which started on Monday, has seen several heads of state and government and key dignitaries attend the high-level conference staged at the KICC. The government has launched the first phase of the Inua Jamii registration exercise to bring on board older members of the society aged 70 years and above, people with severe disabilities and orphans whose caregivers are unable to fully support them. Speaking during the launch of the exercise, Acting Garissa County Commissioner Solomon Chesut called on all elders in the society to avail themselves with their national identity cards for registration. Chesut further said that the exercise is free of charge and warned that anyone who tries to solicit money from the members of the public will face the full force of the law. The registration, which will continue for the next 20 days in all counties in the country, will see the beneficiaries receive a monthly stipend of 2,000 shillings. Kenya Power has said certain areas across 10 counties will go without power for the better part of today to allow for routine maintenance. Managing Director Joseph Siror says the scheduled power interruption will be affected as early as 8 a.m. in some areas until as late as 5 p.m. Siror adds that areas to be affected are in the counties of Kiambu, Machakos, Narok, Kirinyaga, West Pokot, Isiolo, Nyeri, Homa Bay, Kisii and Uasin Gishu. And in the international scene, 53 members of the security forces have been killed in an attack by suspected jihadists in northern Burkina Faso. The army says 17 soldiers and 36 civilian volunteers of the army died on Monday while repelling an attack. The unit, which came under attack, was deployed in the town of Kumbri in Yatenga province to enable the resettlement of residents chased out of the area by jihadists more than 2 years ago. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
One 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. 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 102.5 Spi The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aya, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda.
I mean, I don't understand. What are they saying? How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So
See?
Your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes, my name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Wednesday in the middle of the week. And it looks like it will be one more day of busy streets as the Africa Climate Summit comes to a close today. Folks are going to be in and out of the city, that's for sure. And they're making their way back towards the airport. But we're going to keep an eye on things today and see how it looks like. A little bit of movement coming in on the Thika Superhighway. But that's just about it for this time of the day. Starting off Wednesday right, keeping things moving. Let's know what's going on where you are. And let's talk on Spice FM, KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning. How are you doing? It's the 6th day of September 2023, the final day of the Africa Climate Summit. and we're here. And climatic controls in this studio. Where?
They didn't get the memo.
Aye, they didn't. There's global warming outside. There's global freezing inside here. Mambo ikoje lakini ndu?
Kwangu. Mambo ni poa sana.
Mambo bam bam.
Salama.
Yes. You're very good and very nice.
Thank you very much. Unakaa mzuri sana leo.
Asante sana.
Kwa Kiswahili?
Okay.
Sisi anapanga vitu bado. Just leave him a minute. Uko sawa? You're very high up there. Or is it me who is low down here?
No, I am high up.
You're one of the high ups?
Yes. Niko high up.
Uko high up?
Yes.
Mambo kwaje?
Mambo ni mzuri actually. It's not as cold outside.
As it is in here?
Yeah, the studio is cold, but outside it's not.
It's warming up.
No, there's that cutting cold that we sometimes get here. Yeah. But today it isn't quite there.
It isn't at that level, eh?
No, it's not. It's quite pleasant.
Okay.
And how are you, Eric?
Mimi niko sawa.
And you and do?
Tell me how, as you're looking at me.
Peachy.
As he's looking at me, he's looking and thinking that I'm peachy.
With the emoji to boot.
Well, yes. Have you ever touched a peach? Have you ever touched a peach?
Which one?
Fruit.
Peach
the fruit. Have you ever touched one?
Oh.
Exactly. When you bite into it, that's the feeling you get. And it's like fuzzy on the outside, really, really soft.
Really?
We're still talking about the fruit. Thank you very much.
City looks at you and he sees the peach.
You see, they're blasphemy.
Really? No, it's okay, City.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Yes,
let's just reroute this conversation.
Yesterday you abandoned us here, City.
You just stood up and went.
I did. There was a presentation I was supposed to make at a certain meeting, and that was the hour. They told me I had asked if I could come at a different time, and I was told that wasn't possible. That was the only time I could go there. That is why.
Did it make money, the presentation?
The only thing that came to mind is that song. I'm leaving on a jet plane. but in my case,
when I'll be back again.
But in my case, I knew when I was going to come back.
All your bags are packed.
Yes, and I'm ready to go.
Hey. Hiya, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. What shall we be discussing today, this Wednesday morning at 7 a.m.? We'll be joined by a gentleman called Dr. John Chumo. Dr. Chumo is the CEO of Mama Doing Good. Mama's doing good. Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Mama Doing Good? No, I don't think I have any idea.
Oh, Mama.
Doing good.
Doing good. It's an initiative by the First Lady, Rachel Ruto. She's the mama.
In this case, she's the mama.
Yes, and she's doing good.
Oh,
yes.
It's catchy, isn't it? No, it's very catchy.
Mama Doing Good.
It's very catchy.
He'll come and tell us what this whole Mama Doing Good story is all about. But he'll be also be talking about climate change and all the looking at the Africa Climate Summit. What are expectations of this? What will be the outcomes? We know the output is the communique that was issued yesterday. Are we doing enough? That's a conversation. At 8 o'clock, pushing for accountability in sports. One person who has really been on the case of the Sports Cabinet Secretary, Ababu Namwamba, is the Senator for Nandi County, Samson Cherargei. He will be coming in this morning. What's the issue? Bwana Senator. Nini?
Surely.
Hey, bwana. Siapatia mtu breathing space.
Yeah.
Surely. So 8 a.m., Senator Cherargei joins us. Last time he was to come, then they had this urgent meeting at the Senate.
Whisked away.
Yeah. So they were told, bana, wait. Hey,
this thing of going to you, don't forget it.
So today, he said, today
is the day.
Is the day. I will be there. And then Kenya Airways recently announced their half-year results, and for the first time in very many years, they have actually announced an operating return and operating profits. What does that mean? But then operating profit, but in a bigger scale of things now, their legacy debts, the dollar, the shilling depreciation, and all affected their net results. So they still made a big net
But
loss.
in essence, it is an upward movement.
It's an upward movement.
Yes, towards profitability.
Yes. One of the people who works at Kenya Airways is Mwenda Mabura. He is a pilot. He will be coming to talk to us about reviving Kenya Airways. What are his thoughts? What are the thoughts of those who work for this organization? Do they feel the upward movement? Is there turbulence going up, or are we coming down? Reviving Kenya Airways. That's a conversation with Mwenda Mabura. Pirate.
It's a pirate.
Pirate, you're Would you kill him to squeeze in pilot? When people want to be, nice to someone, or no, polite, and you don't know the driver's name.
Pilot.
You don't go, where driver? Where driver tunaenda?
Pilot.
Tusikie pilot. Utasimamisha hapo kidogo.
Mid-flight.
Okay. It is 17 after 6. We are live streaming the show as we always do on YouTube and Facebook. You know what you need to do. Let us know where you're tuned from. After Ndu does the weather thingy, she will also do the welcoming thingy.
Okay. Clear conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 26 as well. In a partly cloudy Nakuru at 14. It's 12 and partly cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 25, and 24 will be the high. In a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 13. It's 22 and partly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 30, and highs of 30 as well is what we'll see in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 23. It's 19 and cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 27. 27 will also be the high in a cloudy Kakamega at 16. Looking into Kampala, partly cloudy at 18, and Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at 23. 10 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 9, and 29 will be the high in a partly cloudy Lagos at 25. It's 23 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 33. We'll see highs of 33 as well in Beijing, where it's currently hazy. Wednesday afternoon at 29. It's partly cloudy at 20 in Paris and 18 and cloudy in London. There's a heat advisory over New York. It's mostly clear at 26 Tuesday night. Coming into Wednesday, see highs of 34 and lows of 24.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Don Sabo says the great team, i.e. CT, Eric and Muga. I'm not understanding. In fact, I've gone on strike. I don't understand. We're not doing again. We have stopped. Don, you better redeem yourself before I count to 3. He has given you 2 spots. CT,
Eric and Muga. Very good.
I don't understand. This is misogyny. It is chauvinism. It's everything. In fact, it's racism.
It's a whistling thing.
I'm not Kenyan. Why are you people doing me like this early in the morning before the sun has risen? Don, better wake up, my brother. Let me just tell you what he said. And I'm even helping you to read the language and you forget me. Today is Wednesday in Malawi. It's called Lachitatu. Eric, Sabataino this week.
Sabataino. What do you respond to?
Sabataino is this week. Sabataino
is this week.
Yes. We have heavy traffic jam in town.
Yes.
Kwambiri. I'm done. I'm waiting for you. I'm still seeing you. Leshan Sanchez says good morning from
So today is that day is called
Lachitatu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goge Alex says he's tuning from Muranga County. Carol Nyambura, good morning. Nawapenda sana tunawapenda pia. Moses Jane says good morning, Situation Room. Suleiman Mohammed, CC How Ginger, Uganda, Gotea CT. Situkuje nikugote bas.
Ginger Uganda.
Yeah, Ginger Uganda.
Okay.
Good morning, people. This is the day. It is indeed. John Alex, the 2000. Agri Momanyi says, good morning. The only great people in part of Sahara, Asante. Ndu and Ednah. Are you listening? Listen. If your men don't play pool, you're lucky. That thing teaches men how to fuck. Go away. Life is awesome. Korir Isaac, good morning. CT, Latiff and Ndu. Looking forward to an insightful, interactive and deep conversation, according to Korir. Even Nyangano says good morning to you all. Up and tuned as usual. Dr. Venvik says good morning. Tuned in from Tuda in Mombasa. Say hello to Lea Obaga. We shall greet her just before 7. Jim Mweo says good morning. And Hiram Gavondu says good morning, team Tuko area. Robert Mbogo, he's also tuned in this morning from Mombasa. And from Las Vegas, that's where Joe Mungai is. Zeke says, have a happy, blessed Wednesday. And Ben Nabe, tuned in from New Jersey. I can't sleep. I'm glad I have something to watch. Hope today's proverb is a difficult one. Are you ready for difficulty? Ed Mula says, good morning, Eric Ndu and CT, tuned to a spicy morning. Okay, Steve Ouma, please, I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher this language. CT, you must help me. Jadwong City, Ngise ni ober kambuta. Ngise ni ober kambuta.
Well, the Ngise thing is the one I don't get, but Berkambuta is as beautiful as Mbuta. Read it again. Gino.
Ngise, Ngiseni is the next word. Ngise ni ober kambuta.
Ngise, tell them.
Oh, Ngise.
Tell them they're as beautiful as
Mbuta.
What's Mbuta? Mbuta is not fish.
Nile perch. Tell them they're as beautiful as a Nile perch.
I'm scared.
Oh, they are as beautiful as Nile perch.
Nile perch.
Yes.
Voila. Asante sana. Assalamu alaikum from Soulful this morning. Habari asubuhi. God bless you, strong team. Asante sana, Ruth Mugo. Thanks for joining us. Fruits. No one calls it like our neighbors, like in Tanzania. Kwani, how do they call fruits? Okay. Kimutai Simon says, following the conversations, good morning to you. Sam says, good morning, fellow Kenyans. Speaking with other Africans in the diaspora, I realized we're not doing so bad as a country. Or are we? A good question. James Gakio Lock from Dubai. The Dawn says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. Good morning to you all. Looking forward to a wonderful discussion today. Samuel Warurio, we see you. Lawrence Njane, happy Wednesday to you too. And Samuel White, okay. Bauni Thweta says, good morning, Spices. Hearing you loud and clear from the UAE. Karibu sana.
Kabisa. Everybody, welcome. City? Fanya nuna hii.
What comes out of the mouth has lost its master. Master here is not M-U-S-T-E-R. It's M-A-S-T-E-R.
Master Mdosi.
Mdosi. Boss yule. What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
Voila. You can't control it anymore.
And yo.
What comes out of the mouth
is gone.
Yo imeenda. Headlines.
I'm among the chosen few today. Hata nimepewa star. City ameniletea star. Telling
Star.
you, today is going to be a good
Star
day.
newspaper.
Kwambia.
Wewe nikafikiri amekusomea nyota.
I actually went and requested and were obliged with one.
Amekusomea nyota yako.
Africa's loud voice is on the front page of the Standard. Nearly 20 African presidents converged in Nairobi to talk climate change, and they did not disappoint. They talked. They are confident of the continent's renewable energy potential and want the globe's mega emitters to honor their financial pledges. Today, Wednesday, they are going to adopt a declaration that is deemed to be a game changer. There is John Kerry, who is the United States Special Envoy on Climate. We also have Julius Bayo, who is the Sierra Leonean president. Paul Kagame not missing from here, and Salva Kiir also here from South Sudan. Samia Suluhu was here. Not sure if she's still here, but we also have Saleh Ziude from Ethiopia, Akufo-Addo, of course, from Ghana, and Mohamed Menfi, who is the Libyan president. In the middle of them all, His Excellency President William Ruto, what he said, Africa...
His Excellency, then go the full hog. His Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Kipchirchir
Arap Ruto. Yes. Thank you very much.
EGH, PhD.
Yes.
CGH.
Yes.
Husband of father to,
yes, the
President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya.
Team leader.
Yes. The holder of the sword.
Yes.
One of his name. Okay, sorry. Africa has summoned the confidence to confront hard facts, engage truthfully, and forge a common position on critical issues that projects a new, bold, and radically transformative voice. That is what he said yesterday. We'll look at the details of what happened and what is likely to happen today. But many are interested in what will happen after today.
Right.
Freedom fighter Muthoni Kirima takes a final bow. That is covered on page 10 and 11. Kenya mulls over petrol diesel vehicle ban. Sasa wewe utatuambia yeye kutoka business.
Yes.
On the front page of The Nation, Ruto, don't kill us with debt. It's another thing that he said very loudly yesterday. You want us to all participate, but then you're throttling us. You're choking us. The debt is in our mouth. We cannot swallow. Stop it. He addressed a global gathering of dignitaries in Nairobi. President William Ruto decries unfair loan agreements with the West, saying these continue to disadvantage and impoverish the country, and the continent. And as former U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry lauds Ruto's leadership, he blows hot and cold on climate reparations to Africa. While the world is talking climate, the Raila team wants political parties to pick IEBC chiefs.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They want political parties to pick IEBC chiefs.
We are back there again.
Yes, we are, please.
Instead of who?
Why move forward if you can oscillate? I mean...
Why pray when you can worry?
I mean... Sheesh. So, we still want that to happen. Looking at tickers this morning, win for acting officials as MPs reject proposals to deny them allowances. Well, are you surprised? Why would there be a proposal to reject and then I allow it?
Food in the mouth.
Surely.
Then somebody wants to remove it and then you allow it.
I agree. Surely. What did you expect was going to happen? A trader has been hit. A trader has been hit with 81 million shillings in fines for evading the taxman. The trader is a businesswoman. We'll give you the details of that later. We looked at that story of in the courts where the lawyer makes a U-turn and rescinds the decision to withdraw Mumia's case. When it looks as though somebody was held by the short and curlies, we saw that a case was withdrawn. Now, soberness has returned. And they said, actually, you know what? We're going ahead with this.
Okay.
On the back page of The Nation is that story I'll tell you about, where acting officials and should they be paid allowances and should they be not. So that's the back page. So that's what I have. I want to do the star, but I think I'll leave the honors to one city, Muga.
Okay. Hiya, the Business Daily. Okay. The top headline is about this Raila Ruto talks, and they say that Kenya's private sector is posting growth in business deals for the first time in 7 months on the easing political tension and moderating food prices. The findings of a closely watched survey show. The Stanbic Kenya Purchasing Managers Index survey found companies raised output in August, albeit marginally, prompting them to increase hiring at the fastest rate in 2 years. This renewed growth in output was the first since January, according to the survey, which was based on feedback from about 400 managers, drawn from key economic sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, construction, wholesale, retail, services, and mining. So, because things are now looking up. The other one, betting firms face 2 more gambling taxes in a new bill. The government is lining up 2 new taxes on betting firms, escalating the onslaught on the multi-billion shilling industry whose growth appears to defy heavy taxation. The Betting Control and Licensing Board is proposing a gambling tax which will be charged at the rate of 15% of a betting firm's gross gaming revenue and a further 1% monthly levy on the same revenue. Currently, the betting firms are taxed on the gross gaming revenue, that is, turnover minus winnings paid out, at a rate of 15%. Higher. Ticker headlines. Distressed SMEs need an average 30,000 shillings capital to reopen. A typical micro, small or medium enterprise in Kenya needs an average of 30k capital injection to restart operations after a close down, pointing to the tiny monetary value of ventures running at that level. AFDB launches a 145.5 billion shilling funding for Africa startups. And then in the Business Daily, there's a big photo here. There's a photo in the middle of it, and it's President William Ruto signs up for the implementation of the Green Hydrogen Strategy and Roadmap during the Africa Climate Summit at the KICC in Nairobi yesterday. She is there flanked by the EU President. What's her name? What's her name?
Van der what?
Yeah?
I don't remember. Chairman.
Her name is there are many photos in the nation. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Okay. Sir, City.
Yes, please.
What's in the star?
Star.
Star. The star.
Okay.
The star.
There's a huge picture here of all the different the heads of states who were here. Till Green, top corner, Ndu has mentioned. Then now lower down, Kenyatta Sansu's mother in battle for 10 billion estate.
Okay.
Yes, this is the son of former intelligence chief James Kenyatta, who moved to court to revoke appointment of his stepmother as the administrator of the deceased 10 billion shilling estate. 10 billion. Pesa mingi sana. Heavy rains caused Solai Dam to burst, Mansuk tells court. 48. This is the story.
This matter is still in court.
The matter was taken to court. When we had the gentleman who is the organizing secretary for the victims and those who suffered, he said they had not taken the matter to court. So the matter had gone to court.
By the state.
The state apparently had taken the matter to court. Okay. So now it was scheduled for a hearing.
Okay.
But last week there had been a call by the ODPP to ask if these groups can come together and agree instead of the court case going on. Because those who had been affected had said, look, we did not take this matter to court. If there's issues, we want them settled outside court.
Okay.
But the magistrate ruled that, excuse me, you can do that, but at the same time, the court case
proceeds.
It proceeds.
Until the day that you come and file and say, we have reached an agreement.
Yes, so that is essentially, that is it. So now, page 3 of the Star, there's heavy rains caused Solai Dam burst, killing 48 defendants.
All right.
So this story goes on. So the whole of this week, I think it should end, on Friday. Yes.
I see. I see.
And the beat goes on.
Yes.
Okay.
Tufanye traffic. 27 minutes to 7. Time for that look at what's happening on the roads. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see.
Hey.
V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone you'd ever... okay, traffic.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Okay, so, well, after that intermission, a little bit of traffic here and there. On the Thika Superhighway, we've seen that build up. It's quite significant, different from what we saw earlier. It's probably going to be busy, busier than this. Coming in from KCA and then out towards the Pangani underpass is where we see the hold up. It's also busy on Kiambu Road, as you get towards Muthaiga Square. That's pretty busy right about now. Jogo Road is also busy, getting towards Landis and then out towards the city. The city's not piling up from Uhuru Highway, at least not yet. We're probably going to see that movement in a short while. It looks like we're getting a slow start to Wednesday as things are kind of closing down after this morning's activities. So let's keep an eye on, see how that progresses as we get closer to 7. And let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay.
94.4 Spice FM.
Let me tell you some of the things that those who were in attendance said. We'll start from Samia Suluhu, who said the stakes are high and actions have to take place today. As Africans, we have no choice but to seize the moment. Sahle Zure, who is the Ethiopian president, said our summit cannot and should not be a talk show, but a place where concrete and actionable solutions are taken. According to Akufo-Addo, he said a summit to define a common African position towards COP28 is commendable, especially if it can help mobilize resources. Mohamed Menfi, who is the Libyan president, said,
I'm interested in that one.
We need harmonized climate initiatives to face the challenge and stand against interests of some industrialized countries. Look at what he said. Stand against interests of some industrialized countries. Salva Kiir says we must seize the opportunity of the African Climate Summit to come up with ways to address climate change impact. And Julius Bio, who's the Sierra Leonean president, said the industrial giants are fundamentally unjust. Can you see similarities between what he and the Libyan president are saying? We are just here to collaborate, not to capitulate. We seek cooperation and not charity. We're not begging you. So look, we work together or you ship out. Paul Kagame says Africa continues to carry the burden of rising temperatures. This is unfair. But playing the blame game is not the answer. Okay, John Kerry said the problem is human-made. It's about pollution and it's not complicated. It is clear Africa presents the best opportunity to win the battle. Okay, so there have been pledges, and these pledges have come from this summit. There's a pledge of 3.6 trillion shillings, which is equal to $25 billion from the African Development Bank towards climate finance by 2025. That's in 2 years. There's a pledge from the COP28 President designate Sultan Al Jaber, investment pledge in Africa's clean energy of $4.5 billion. There is a pledge from the first tranche of financing locally led climate action program, where up to 80% flows to counties, of $49.4 million. Safaricom's sustainability linked loan jointly with Standard Chartered, Standard Bank, ABSA and KCB of $15 billion. Amount that the US has committed to fund Africa each year to climate loss and damage and build resilience is $3 million. Many argued that this is a paltry sum.
What?
1 billion euros is the amount that the EU committed to de-risk private investments, set to help track up to 20 billion euros in investments. So people are putting some money out here. These are pledges. But one thing that has come out very clearly from yesterday's talks was that we can pledge and we can talk. We can come up with declarations, but what is going to be extremely important in the months after here is the implementation of these things that we have talked about. It cannot be a talk shop as it has been in the last few years, or the last decade. It cannot be another talk shop. We actually have to see these things done.
It's walking the talk.
Absolutely.
Because that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And then, now after the pledge comes, this is a pledge to Africa. So how does it come down to a country, to a county, to a community? How does it get down to a community? Because it's a pledge to Africa. So let's say even the COP28 president actually comes through with this pledge of how much? 4.5 billion USD.
Going towards COP28, the president designates $4.5 billion.
So $4.5 billion. Let's say he just actually says they find a way of unlocking this and the money is available. How does it come to Kenya? Kenya is one of many countries in Africa. How does it get to Kenya? How much comes to Kenya?
How much comes to each country? Yes. And when we're talking about clean energy, what are we talking about? Are you going to start to boost solar? Are you going to start to boost biogas in terms of are you going to start to boost the investment towards the implementation of such? What are you going to do?
For example, there's a story here. The U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, will invest over 200 million shillings to support Kenya's carbon market plan and regulatory efforts to ensure integrity, transparency, and equity. So this is the carbon market and regulatory framework for the carbon markets. Additionally, USAID will use almost 220 million shillings to scale up access to clean green public transport by supporting Kenya's Basigo electric bus transport company to expand to Rwanda.
From
USAID. They're getting 220 million shillings. This Basigo is the Moses Derito buses.
Yeah.
This is a good one. Hey, Moses, wanaleta hii pesa hapa kidogo tukule. 220 million. While addressing journalists at a press conference yesterday, USAID Chief Climate Officer and Deputy Assistant Administrator Gillian Caldwell said the carbon market funding will come from the over 5 billion shillings outlay that is part of a suite of investments and initiatives to support climate action in Africa. That's USAID, and it's in Business Daily. However, a headline on page 2 and 3 of The Nation says, as Ruto is decrying unfair debt policies, John Kerry, who is the U.S. climate envoy,
the U.S. special envoy on climate,
is blowing hot and cold on climate reparations.
You know, these things of reparations, they're a good story. In the year 1904, 1908, the Germans had colonized Namibia. And there were a group of people called the Ovaherero and Nama. They were killed in huge numbers and displaced. So in 2021, the German Minister for Development and Cooperation and other associated good things came, apologized, not we think perhaps maybe apologize, sorry, okay? But they also pledged that they're going to pay 1.2 billion euros over a period of 30 years, okay? Now I've been trying to track this money to see where it has gone, or if it has come, if it has been paid. It's of significance that they apologized, okay? Are we hearing an apology from the West with regards to the damage they've caused us? Because some of these problems the health problems that we keep talking about, these things, the moment you mention climate change, somebody else brought that problem to you. Yes, you're not going to tell us we cut trees. We've been cutting trees since trees were invented.
So you want them to start with apologizing, and then now let's talk about reparations.
Yes. What if you are paying us? What are you paying us for? Have you admitted that this is something that you did which was wrong and you shouldn't have? And if you didn't know it was inadvertent, then say so, but say, look, folks, now that has happened, we are sorry. Now, the amount that I hear being mentioned, that doesn't sound like an adequate apology.
Especially from the United States.
That is not an adequate apology. It doesn't sound to me like an adequate apology. Sorry.
Nothing like that?
No. If that amount they were talking about, how many African countries are there?
Many, buana.
What, 51?
51.
51, okay. Yeah. So let's say that there are 54 countries, but you can't say multiply that by 54. Let's give them a discount. Okay?
Okay, just do for 45.
No, even 27.
Okay.
Multiply by that amount they mentioned. Then at least you can say you're starting somewhere. So when Kenya comes and says, give us our share, we know what we're... But this one they've offered. Oh, so what do we get?
Mambo gani.
And then over what period of time are they supposed to... You see...
It's 100 billion by 2030, isn't it?
They're supposed to do 100 billion by 2030.
Yeah.
Or 100 billion
USD
by 130.
That was the pledge from COP in Egypt. All right. So now we're starting to see the trickling in of this money. And
no, we're seeing and hearing the talk. Yes.
Right. And look, I'm forced to agree with you, CT, because this is it. You can do this dance dog and pony show back and forth, and you can come to the ACS in Nairobi. You will go to Dubai in November. You will do the thing. But are you serious? The same reasoning that is behind the US, for example, wanting to explore oil all over the world with their reserves of 200 years. 200 years of reserves is what the US has in oil. But they don't want to touch it. Nope. It's the same attitude we're talking about here.
And we're saying they should forget about it.
Yeah.
Don't ever think of touching it.
Don't even think that you will touch it. Leave it there. Let's explore somewhere else. Then it is these same countries where you want to go and explore that you want to tell them, be careful with the environment, guys. You know, let's get those credits as low as possible. That's what you're saying.
Do you remember the conversation that someone had in this very studio? And they referred to it as a lipstick on a pig. These things are not sincere.
They're not. I really don't think they are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very happy. Look, okay, it's so double-sided here. Because also on our side as African leaders, if we took this thing, look, Africa decided to have a summit and the world is here.
Yeah.
That should show us something. Now imagine if we were able to apply some seriousness to it. You move like this as Africa and the world is
they'll be
shaking.
like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So you can imagine if it was serious.
I think credit where it's due, by the way, that President Ruto, within less than a year in office, he came into office and he mobilized Africa and said, come on, people, let's do this.
Absolutely.
This is a big one. Credit where it's due. He went into COP just a few months into office as president, and he was like, people, no.
Stop it.
And he took over leadership of this, and he convinced the AU, let us have our own summits. Let's prepare ahead of COP28. And here it is. It's come to pass. It's coming to a close today. All these leaders of Africa and others from the world have been here. And the communique is clear. We want our money.
Yeah. Look at what Libya is saying.
Look
at what Sierra Leone is saying. Look at what Rwanda is saying. So you can imagine if there was that concert and it was...
If we sustain this momentum and going to COP28 with it, then we'll start having conversations, because this is a good thing. This is a good thing. For this one, William Ruto gets it. He gets it. Something else before City, you tell us an interesting story. Remember when on the inauguration of President William Ruto, among the leaders who were present was the leader from the place called the Sahrawi. And then soon after, there was a meeting between the president and some leader from Morocco. And then there was some communique that came out of State House that said, you know what, by the way, us guys, we don't know these Sahrawi people. Us guys, we only know Morocco. And there was a whole...
Who are those? Huh? Is a country called what?
What? Hey. That's a Sahrawi president. The one who was here last year is here.
Right now.
Brahim Ghali. He's in the Africa climate talks.
Personally, myself personally.
Remember, Sahrawi is not recognized
by anybody.
No. It's recognized by the AU, and that's why Morocco walked out of the AU.
Not by the UN.
Yes. Yeah. The thing, though, that I appreciate about President Ruto, this one I appreciate among other things, is his ability to swim upstream and to swim against the tide. People say this is the norm. He says, no, forget about that thing. We're going to bend this thing. I mean, why must we always go by this same perspective?
Yeah.
Why are we insisting that we must look at this thing in this way? Can it not also be looked at in this way?
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying we can't talk to the Sahu? No, we're talking to them. See, they're on this continent. And then there's another country in the Middle East called what? Iran. And who has a problem with it? Look, we don't have a problem with these people, okay? All right? Yeah, you are our friends. We know you are our friends. But these guys are not our enemies, okay? So they're going to come and visit us. They're going to have a chit-chat. That particular position is a good one. And it's like many countries on this continent who are waiting for someone who has the backbone to say, folks, why don't we just use this backbone that we all have?
Yeah.
You don't have to invent it. You don't have to borrow it.
See if you can
have yours.
Something one here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it makes progress. Have you seen the number of players in the West who have come for this conference?
Yep. The EU president is here. The American envoy on climate is here.
And he's still here. Note, please.
He didn't just hop in and out.
Fly in and go back. Stayed the full thing. Still here as we speak. And that's what I'm saying.
UN Secretary General is here.
The UN Secretary General is here.
And then people are tripping over themselves to give us money for hydrogen, green hydrogen.
Yeah.
How many colors of hydrogen do we have?
How many do you want? Just say what you want.
Trombie,
they'll put the color behind it.
Let me tell you a story. Happy story here. Okay. We are looking at the East African.
Okay.
All right. I'm following in President William Ruto's footsteps.
Okay.
There is a story on the magazine of the East African. The gentleman called Fali Ipupa. Another one called Ferregola. And the battle for music lovers in Kinshasa.
Kin what? Oh, no, please. You thought you would just slide that one. You thought you would just say it quickly and move on.
Kinshasa.
All right. Well done.
Right. The East African has very many stories, okay? But that was a prelude to the story that I mentioned in passing yesterday. Kinshasa blames radical, this thing is a tongue twister, radical groups for violent attacks on peacekeepers. You see, as we talk green, we're actually talking about revolutionizing the way we think. Why am I saying this? Why is it that on this continent, the one thing that seems to capture our headlines is turmoil? Why is it? In one form or the other, there is some turmoil. The Horn of Africa, turmoil. Okay? Southern Sudan, turmoil. Sudan Khartoum, turmoil. You're talking Sahel. You move up Kidogo. That entire belt, Mali, turmoil. Now, you look at all these things, yeah? Let's leave this subject of climate change just for a second, a wee bit. At the heart of these discussions is resources.
Yes.
It is.
And how it is, those who are in leadership are mismanaging it on behalf of the citizens.
Yes. A higher percentage.
Yes, exactly. Which means that as more children are being born, and in this continent we really bear many, we have many children. Okay? No, that we know. This thing of 1, 2 children, many. You find the number of people who are poor and disenfranchised is growing. And there are people who are growing up who've never known a day of ease.
True.
They grow up in turmoil, and that's what they know. Now, you tell me, when these people grow up and become adults, what sort of mindset do you think these people are going to have?
It's entrenched by them. They're highly conditioned.
Why do you think? You see, I'm postulating and thinking of why is it that in the Sahel and this coup belt, why is it that the leaders we're seeing coming from there are very young? How did they grow up? What did they grow up seeing?
What did they see?
Yes.
But you can imagine what was happening in the times of Thomas Sankara, what was happening in the times of Kwame Nkrumah, because these gentlemen were that age. That these revolutionaries that we're seeing today, they were that age. They were 30, they were 29, they were 33, 34. Kwame Nkrumah, when he died, how old was he? Thomas Sankara, how old was he when he died? So these who are revolutionaries today, that we're calling revolutionaries today in Mali and Gabon and Burkina Faso, their parents were young at that time. When these other guys were just getting to the helm of their leadership. So they grew up in this struggle to then become a thinking, independent nation of people. So they've come of age. And they're not taking this sitting down.
Think about it. Their parents and the people who were in Nkrumah's generation were fighting for independence. Now, imagine the depth of the disappointment of independence that supposedly existed but never really did. Because your life changed, but for the worse.
It did.
And you grow up seeing this. At some point you're going to say, wait a moment.
And then you still look and see that you are still in that colonial yoke.
Exactly.
You look around you and it doesn't make sense that your parents would toil everything that they had. And it didn't make sense. You would find that you live in an independent country, but you see that a lot of your foreign reserves are domiciled in another country.
In somebody else's country.
In somebody else's country, and they dictate what happens to you. And the people who should be fighting for you, your leadership, your kin, your skin, your flesh, your blood, are taking that money and they're pocketing it. How won't you go crazy?
Now you tell me. You look at DRC. Look at the mix of people in DRC. Look at how big DRC is. DRC is in Central Africa. DRC is partly in East Africa. DRC is partly in Southern Africa. It's partly in West Africa. That's DRC for you because it's massive. And then you're thinking of all the mineral resources. Then you're thinking of how people have been disenfranchised. Every little group of people who've had a problem, DRC. They have an issue here, they're in DRC. Now, you tell me, how many years ago did Rwanda get independence? It's many decades. The children who are born in DRC moved to Rwanda, moved to DRC. They've known nothing but turmoil. They're now parents. Now you tell me, do we see a situation where on this continent we're actually going to have peace for any great length of time?
Difficult until we decide.
It is very, very difficult, yes.
Until we decide.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's a decision. It's a collective decision.
Yeah, we have to make it.
This climate change conversation is a good one because for the first time I see a glimmer of hope. Glimmer in the sense that Africans and their leaders can actually come together. They actually can Now, why don't they come together and speak truth to each other about ensuring that their citizens are looked after? Because that's what leadership is supposed to be for.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that?
At least do something for the greater good.
Yes.
Okay? The benefits, you will enjoy part of those benefits. You'll enjoy the dividends out of that. But make sure that you do something for the greater good.
There'll be security in your... You know, security isn't the army. Because the army is supposed to provide security. Those are the people who are toppling governments. So where is your security? Your security is your people.
It's your people.
And it's the people who are heralding these people and carrying them shoulder high and praising them. These are popular coups.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Look at the coups that are happening right now. People are not hiding in the streets the way we would see them in the 80s. People are not hiding in their homes because coups would happen. And looking at what was happening at that time, people were scared for their lives.
Yes.
People would run helter-skelter across. If a coup happened and you lived in the north and you were from the south,
you
were
cross
trying
the border
to find a way to get out or get home. But people are in the streets and they're jubilating when a leader has been brought down. What does that tell you?
I'm really fearful, though. Just looking at what happened in the Arab Spring.
Yes.
That, this thing is not hijacked by people who actually have no intention at all of bringing that benefit to the people. The Arab Spring happened, people were happy, and then the whole thing was just high.
Yeah.
Look at South Sudan as well. If these people who are taking over, like you've seen the whole talk about Gabon and the person who's taken over is a cousin of, yeah. But if he means well and he delivers, it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't, then we're like sitting back and thinking,
what?
Oh my God, that whole entire hope.
But Eric, the thing that concerns me along with your concern is that people think they're foolproofed against it. They're not. Cote d'Ivoire thought they were foolproofed.
Yeah.
They were likened to be what? The pearl, as it was. The pearl moved from East Africa.
Was Little Paris.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was not anticipated. It was assumed it would never happen. They did not.
No. My God.
And has the country ever recovered from it?
No.
No, it hasn't.
Big time, it hasn't.
Anyway.
Let's talk about this big one. 81 million shillings fine for evading tax.
Yes. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
A business woman. Should I say business person? All right. A trader hit with 81 million shilling fine for evading a taxman. Businesswoman convicted on 12 counts of failure to file returns and remitting taxes to the Kenya Revenue Authority worth 84,989,824 shillings, including interest. All right. The details of that story. Voila. Just give me a second.
Page 10.
Yeah, it is on page 10. I know, running out of time, but my fingers are refusing to do the thing. Okay, here we are. Miss Antonina Muyoka Sangura, who was doing business with the Vihiga County government, was convicted for failure to file returns and remitting taxes to that amount. She is the secretary of Okoh Consultants Limited, who won a county tender but failed to pay taxes, which included income tax on rental income. Miss Sangura has been charged alongside Miss Margaret Nduko, Mr. Wycliffe Mwendo Kilaka, and Okoh Consultants. However, Mwendo and Nduku were neither arrested nor presented before court for hearing, despite being directors. Sangura was arrested and arraigned on March 28th, 2019. The parties then sought an out-of-court settlement but failed to agree, which saw the matter proceed to hearing. So maybe they tried arbitration or mediation. Okay, we can't agree. Back to court. And so here we are 5 years later with this. The charges against Sangura included failing to submit to the Commission of Domestic Taxes income tax returns and failing to file taxes between 2014 and 2018 without reasonable cause. And I think that's the clincher. Without reasonable cause.
You're just not filing returns. This is it.
That's it.
Jesus.
The judgment delivered yesterday. Wynnum Court Senior Principal Magistrate Fatuma Rashid said the prosecution had proven all the counts, not some, all. So, failing to submit tax returns, the court fined her to 200,000 shillings or 2 years in prison for the years she never complied. Now, mind you, she will pay this money or face this. Plus, she will pay that money that is due to KRA plus interest.
Wait. This is just about not filing returns.
Yes, and on top of that, you don't have a reason as to why you did not.
81 million shillings fine. Why?
So 81 million shillings fine. Then you will pay what you owe, and then on top of that, you will pay You will, if you can't, you will spend time in prison. Plus, you will then pay what you owe to KRA.
Anyway, it's 7 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Lea Obaga. You can now participate by giving your opinion through the government's public participation forum on the Social Health Insurance Fund before it's submitted to Parliament. The Cabinet had recently repealed the NHIF and approved key steps that will see it replaced with 3 separate funds known as the Primary Healthcare Fund, the Social Health Insurance Fund, and the Emergency, Chronic and Critical Illness Fund. The Cabinet said the move was necessitated by Kenya Kwanza's administrative objective to accelerate the rollout of universal healthcare coverage. This event comes as the chief advisor to the President on Health, Daniel Mwai, said that unlike the NHIF, Social Health Insurance Fund aims to improve the provision of basic health services to all Kenyans at a low cost.
2 things are important in this agenda. One is that it is 20 to 25% cheaper to provide services in lower level facilities. So that is how we cut our total health expenditure that has been increasing. The second thing is that those facilities are closer to the people. When, for instance, my mother is making decisions, do I want to go, to seek care today? She's thinking about her child probably who would come from school, her cows that need to be watered. And unless she feels very critically ill, she will not go. And also because it's far. But when the services are closer, she can do her things and later in the evening, just go to the facility and get services. So then we are bringing an issue of early detection of diseases when the services are closer to the people.
Some Kenyans who had their eyeballs scanned to register for the cryptocurrency project WorldCoin now say they are experiencing health issues. Even more, some of the victims now claim that they were shortchanged and did not receive the 7,000 shillings that had been promised for signing up as a new WorldCoin users, but were instead given 2,000 shillings. Testifying before the National Assembly Ad Hoc Committee of Inquiry into the WorldCoin controversy, one of the witnesses submitted that after undergoing the scan, he started experiencing eye problems and had to seek medical assistance.
They promised us some money when we registered to the app, around $70, and they never told us the process of how to withdraw the money from the app. About the health hazards, I only had some watery eyes after the scanning only.
CBK Governor Kamal Thuge on his part said that they'd come up with modern technology measures that would see Kenyans protected from such farms.
So I think we are adequately prepared for looking into new innovations. And I think even from the past, the central bank has really been at the forefront of new technologies and innovations while taking into account the risks.
The Kenyan government is now free to continue with its plan to import about 125,000 tons of cheap cooking oil after the court removed the previous order to prevent the importation. The Law Society of Kenya had gone to court to challenge the plan, which was supposed to be implemented through the Kenya National Trading Corporation. The society said that the plan would harm other businessmen in the sector, especially by buying the oil without tax. However, in his decision, Judge John Thigeti has blamed LSK for submitting the cabinet documents as evidence, despite the fact that the documents were supposed to be confidential. Chigeti added that LSK did not prove to the court that it obtained the receipts following the proper procedure. The government has launched the first phase of the Inua Jamii registration exercise to bring on board older members of the society aged 70 years and above, people with severe disabilities and orphans whose caregivers are unable to fully support them. Speaking during the launch of the exercise, Acting Garissa County Commissioner Solomon Chesut called on all elders in the society to avail themselves with their national identity cards for registration. Chesut further said that the exercise is free of charge and warned that anyone who tries to solicit money from the members of the public will face the full force of the law. The registration, which will continue in the next 20 days in all counties in the country, will see the beneficiaries receive a monthly stipend of 2,000 shillings. And in the international scene, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has called for measures to slow the birth rate in the Arab world's most populous country, citing China's one-child policy as an example. Sisi told his citizens that the birth rate needed to be 400,000 births per year, down from the nearly 2.2 million births that were recorded last year alone. Sisi intervened when his Minister of Health and Population, Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, told a conference that having children is a matter of complete freedom. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Obaga.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, so what's interesting on the streets today? We're looking at movement on the Thika Superhighway just past the Outer Ring Junction, and that's bumper to bumper. And now is when we see a lot of movement as well on Uhuru Highway. It's going to take you from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. There's traffic coming in from Langata Road, also coming in from Gong Road. As you keep going into the CBD, you'll see some movement then out towards Chiromo and then into Westlands. And we'll also see inbound traffic as well. Coming off of Kiambu Road, we're seeing it moving closer and closer to the DCI headquarters, inching back. And as we come out of Ruaka, we'll see some movement there coming in from the northern bypass. All right, let's take a look at this traffic that's coming on Jogo Road. It's not too bad, but we're looking at traffic coming in from the southern bypass. I beg your pardon, from North Airport Road in from Cabanas out towards the eastern bypass. So our normal traffic happenings on a morning like this one, we'll keep an eye and see what happens as we get into traffic hour proper. Let's talk Spice FM, KE on X.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room. It's Wednesday. It's the 6th day of September. Like, we are going. And very soon, we'll be into October. And very soon,
we'll say
December. And we'll
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmasing. But before we do that,
New Year's resolution.
I am about to finish my New Year resolutions.
Okay, then you'll get into it next year.
Yeah. I think my year will begin in November.
Okay.
By 2023. Will begin in November. On the 29th of October, we will be running along the southern bypass in Nairobi and other parts of the country.
Yes, we will. It's Kenya's largest single athletics event. It's back this year and it's bigger, celebrating the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. And it's fantastic because we get to celebrate this. As you register to run on the 29th, 2,000 shillings, you can do this on www.nairobimarathon.com. Why is this so great? Because you get to run, get a day out, fresh air, move your body. At the same time, the registration fee goes towards making sure that young people, especially girls and people with disability, get the chance to learn, earn, and grow.
It's a very important one. The virtual run also happens just a week leading up to the 29th, right?
Yes, it does. Remember the last time we had the virtual run in Mombasa, we had it in Kakamega and had it in Kisumu. That will happen again this year.
Those are the satellite runs.
Those are satellite runs. But there'll be virtual runs that you can actually, those are satellite runs, right? But virtual runs where you're doing it on your own and then you post your time and then you see where you are on the leaderboard.
Yes.
That'll happen, and it'll happen a week to the 29th, which is the 22nd. And then you can practice and then get yourself back up there. You still register on www.nairobimarathon.com. So you can do it virtually or you can do it physically. So yay.
Can you imagine if this thing was happening this weekend? So with all these people who've come for the Africa Climate Summit, and they tell them, let's
run, then you can go back to
You've come to the home of athletics. All right? It's okay. Let's not change the calendars too much. So let's not do too many things. So the Africa Climate Summit comes to a close today after very many things that have been said, many conversations, many pledges, and a communique jointly by the African Union, which says this is what we as Africans say about climate change, and this is what we say about adaptation to climate change. And all these pledges, we don't want more pledges, we just want things to move.
Yep.
We'll soon be joined by somebody who will be talking to us about this, and this is Dr. John Chumo from Mama Doing Good. As he comes in for that conversation, let's also look at an interesting story that you had talked about earlier in the paper, which is people who have been in acting capacity in the civil service. So you have been acting CEO, acting director, acting, I don't know what for a while. There's a bill that had been taken to Parliament, which was called the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill of 2023, which was seeking to say, if you've been acting, you will not be paid for those months that you're acting.
Yeah.
Okay?
You were just holding.
So you earn the money that you ought to be paid for your designated position, for your actual position. So let's say you are in an organization such as ours, you are MD Broadcast, and you are acting CEO. Your salary as MD Broadcast remains as MD Broadcast while you are acting as CEO. You will not be paid the salary of a CEO when you're acting as CEO. It was taken to Parliament. Members of Parliament said, hey, wait a minute. That goes against everything, even the Constitution, Bana. The Employment Act, Section 5 of the Employment Act, requires an employer to pay employees equal remuneration for work of equal value, not for titles, for work of equal values. So they recommended that the maximum period an officer can serve in an acting capacity is 12 months before that position is declared vacant and filled competitively. Anyone serving beyond that period should be entitled to an acting allowance.
Sindhu.
Yeah.
Did you really think they were going to shut it down?
Yeah. No. It's not a good thing, man. You act for a bit, move on into the next one. Yeah. Okay? Our guest is in the studio. Dr. John Chumo is the CEO of Mama Doing Good. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana.
It's good to have you here.
Yes.
That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you.
You'll tell us what Mama Doing Good is all about, who's Mama and what good is Mama doing. But to welcome you to the conversation, CT has the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Gabon, otherwise known officially as the Gabonese Republic. What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
Yes.
Dr. Chumo, when you hear this proverb, what's your interpretation of it?
Thank you. It actually means that probably whatever that comes out of ourselves, once it's outside there, it's no longer yours. And therefore it is for the rest of the people. And therefore you need to guard whatever that comes out of you.
Ikitoka imeenda.
Imeenda.
That's a good one, City.
It is a very good one.
Yeah?
And it's a very good interpretation.
Very good one.
Yes, it is.
Proverb courtesy of Chai Kweli. This is the Dairy Best. You know Dairy Best, Dr. Chumo?
Yeah.
The Maziwa Dairy Best.
Yes.
This is the long-lasting Dairy Best milk.
Yes.
If you want to make the best chai, use Dairy Best.
Okay.
Chai ya maziwa mengi.
Na unaongeza ile machani kutoka Kenya.
Ile machani original. Chai Kenyan. Yeah? Alafu una boil.
Yeah.
You know the way we go to a restaurant and say, I want Kenyan tea.
Yes. Kenyan tea.
What is Kenyan tea?
It's the brewed.
The one that you've brewed properly. Uko ndani alafu unaweka maziwa.
Yes.
Dairy Best, make sure. Karibu sana to the conversation.
Asante sana.
Now, what is Mama Doing Good?
Thank you so much. Mama Doing Good, as it sounds, is Mama. As we all know, it's about passion, it's about Mama, it's about compassionate and love. Mama Doing Good is an initiative of Excellency, the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, Mama Rachel Ruto. We know, being the First Lady of the Republic, she's not new. She has been doing a lot of things for the last over 20 years, and more so on matters to do with table banking, which actually women financial inclusion, and ensuring that women are actually brought on board in terms of women economic empowerment. Also on matters to do with environment and climate action. You are aware that as it were, the women, you cannot talk about empowerment without talking about cross-cutting issues, and one of it is actually climate change, and therefore one of the areas or pillars is what we call the environment climate action, ensuring that we do conservation for the purpose of mitigating climate change. And then the other one is fair diplomacy. We are aware that the basic unit of a family, of a society, is family, and therefore through faith, we would be able to reach as many as possible and actually try to ensure that the family values are actually adhered to, because as you are aware that as we move on, we are actually losing the grip of families. The families are actually becoming more endangered in terms of what's happening, and therefore through faith diplomacy, we have we endeavor to ensure that the families are actually brought together through awareness creation, through meeting people and meeting the families, the youth, the family setup, the schools, and then also matters to do with youth mentoring and also talent expressions.
Okay. Yeah. We'll focus our attention on environment and climate action because of what's going on right now, the Africa Climate Summit. Yeah. But before we get there, this faith diplomacy is quite interesting. Yeah. What exactly is Mama Doing Good doing with faith diplomacy? We heard something about, Mama is championing for employment of faith people in every ministry, every department.
I think I would want to say that, as I said, that coming from the perspective of our society at the moment, as I said about the issue of the families, Our Excellency, we are talking about faith diplomacy in the sense that and when we say faith, it's not only Christianity as many people think. It is actually across all the the religion groups that we have in this country, and if you look at any religion, it actually professes that families are supposed to be the basic unit, and that's where all of us come from. And therefore, through this, it's just, we believe, or rather, through this initiative, we believe that when we can actually be able to bring on board the families, we bring on board we build the families, then we know we build a society. There are many things that we are discussing today. I'm sure issues to do with LGBTQ and all that. Things in Africa, for example, we were not even supposed even to talk or even to come out of our tongue. But then now it is an issue because we have actually left our society, we have left our families to such kind of a thing, and so therefore,
so what are you doing with faith? Are you praying for people? What do you do?
I mean, through this arrangement, we would be able to go to schools, go to churches. We also have arrangements with the Muslims and all, because it is cutting across.
To do what though? I think that's my question here. To say, okay, going to schools, visiting schools, visiting places of work. To do what? What would be the agenda?
I mean, I would say, for example, there are many arrangements in schools, for example, that we would be able to have the religious. I mean, in any school, there's chaplaincy, and if you look at that, there's always a curriculum that is actually given out there by even the Ministry of Education, which is allowed, and through the kind of interactions, we would be able to bring, and through the spiritual perspective, the students, for example, would be able to understand, because it is whatever, everything we are actually talking about, it is either in the Quran, it is also in our Bibles, and it's just about the issue of what we call the family values, the issue of giving, being humble, and those kind of things.
I still don't get it, Dr. Chuma.
Yeah.
So you are CEO of Mama Doing Good. One of the projects is faith diplomacy. Are you saying that you send people to schools?
No, it is not only that.
Give me an activity.
Yeah. I've just talked about one. But when you go to schools, through that faith diplomacy as a structure, we still also have many other programs, like, for example, Mercy Works. Like assuming, look at, for example, the other day, we had, for example, the drought, which I think I'm going to talk so much about it when it comes to matters climate change.
Yes.
And we were able to go around there are vulnerable groups. We have, for example, the communities across our country. We were the other day, for example, in Marsabit. We were in places like Marikat. We were actually in Kitui when we had the serious drought. And everybody was called. And through Mama Doing Good, we were able to, whatever we could actually get in terms of, food, we were able to give them. So those are the things in terms of compassion. One of the virtues of, or rather values of Mama Doing Good is compassion. And therefore, under that pillar of fair diplomacy, we actually endeavor to ensure that we'll be able to reach as many people in terms of also assisting people. There are issues like, for example, even food, what you call mama feeding, where, for example, we also go to schools and actually ensure that vulnerable schools like in Gibra, like in some places in West Pokot and all that, who would really need some food. And actually through these are the kind of things that we do under Mama Doing Good, fair diplomacy. It's not only praying. There are many other things that we do. I've also talked about the youth mentoring. And in youth mentoring, it means we go to we walk around with the communities, we walk around with the schools and any other arrangement or any other setup to ensure that we profess and ensure that our people get whatever we can actually be able to give them in a matter of Mama Doing Good, love and actually compassionate. So the issue of probably, employing people to pray, I think that is taking a joke too far.
Oh, so that wasn't the truth.
I mean, surely.
That want to
have. You can't employ people to do that. But even me personally, as a person, I would also pray, but I don't need to be employed to go and pray.
In Kericho, they gives somebody 100,000 shillings, is it?
Yeah.
To pray for the people who died in the Londiani.
Somebody was paid
that is not right.
Okay.
Because we say Mama Doing Good and doing it the right way.
Yeah.
So that is not the right way. That's not the right way.
Good the right way.
Yes.
So if I understand you to be saying this, Doctor, you're saying that in our country, in our education institutions and in our other institutions, there are within those institutions units that purpose to do things that may be for the public good. And that what you want to do is partner with those people to ensure that that good that they're doing is enhanced. And in places within the country, or again within institutions, within schools, where you see there's an absence of that, it's a value proposition. You want to ensure that you help build it and make it something that becomes a normal process in places where people are socially disadvantaged, like you say, as a result of drought, or as a result of some calamity that has befallen them. You will look into ways of ensuring you alleviate these particular issues. Do I get you right? Is that what you're saying?
I get you right in the sense that, first of all, I want to agree with you that you got me right by saying that for us, as an institution and also as people of Kenya, just part of the society, we cut across. There are many people who are actually having issues. It is a societal problem that everybody, both even journalism, the journalists like you, the media houses, for example, we need to come on board and ensure that everybody, we are actually talking one language to enhance the values. And I think because those values have been actually degraded. If you look at, I've actually mentioned that sometimes we in the past we hear a lot of strikes, for example, we hear drug abuse and all that with the youth. It calls for all of us to ensure that probably we need to actually enhance and actually support the values by actually bringing on board the best things the best practices that we would be able to do, either spiritually or any other support.
Okay. Environment and climate action.
Yes.
It's also one of the pillars of Mama Doing Good. Yeah. What are you doing on that one?
Thank you so much. As I said, women economic empowerment is one of the things that Her Excellency the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya has been doing for the last 20 years. I think Mama Ruto doesn't need so much introduction in terms of matters to do with women economic empowerment. And this is exactly what she did. She began back when she was the spouse of the Member of Parliament. And she became ran through all the way when she became the spouse of Deputy President, and finally now when she's actually the First Lady of the Republic of Kenya. And therefore, we realize that when you talk about table banking, which is an initiative of financial inclusion, bringing on board the women and actually raising the funds and, at the end of the day, also borrowing. When they get that money, what do they normally do? They actually take the same, resources, go and do other activities. Among them is farming. Yeah. And if you look at the currently, like some of them go for dairy farming, crop farming, the poultry or chicken rearing, pig rearing, and many other things. But at the end of the day, we realize that you find that out of this, they face a serious problem. And that problem is climate change. And what is climate change in this case? Climate change is actually a crisis. I mean, you realize that because of the greenhouse gases that are actually emitted through use of the fossil fuels and other human activities, what they would actually be able to do is to bring the issue of global warming by actually creating a skin-like in the atmosphere and actually enhancing the temperatures. And therefore, we realize that there are many crises that comes of it. The drought is one of it, and most of our women face climate crisis in terms of drought. We have just left about 2 or 3 years. We had a serious drought in this country, which has never been experienced in the last 40 years. And we lost a lot of livestock, we lost a lot of crops. Yeah. Around 5 million people were facing serious, brand of drought. And therefore, in that case, a good number of those people, I would say, are women, children, and people with disability. The others would rather, run to look for something elsewhere. But the women remain in their homes, and they are the ones who feel the hottest part of it. So in this case, we are doing as Mama Doing Good, we have projects. One of it is to ensure that following mitigation, in climate change, there are two things. You are either mitigating or you are adapting. And in this case, for us to mitigate climate change, then we just follow the issue of tree planting as tree growing as a way of actually mitigating climate change. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya has talked about 15 billion. As in Mama Doing Good, we say we need to support the 15 billion that needs to be planted within the next 10 years so that we can be able to increase our forest cover from the current 8.83% to 30% by that time. And when we do that, then we actually mitigate climate change. And as Mama Doing Good, we actually committed to plant 500 million trees across the country. And this is actually what you have actually
500
seen.
million.
500 million. Not 50 million. 500 million.
In how long?
And in the next 10 years. Yes. And what we're actually doing is we have many strategies. One of the strategies is, for example, adapting the forests. And I think Her Excellency has actually adopted Kakamega Forest as part of the ways of actually planting the trees. And then the other thing is actually we are working with the schools to do what you call the Mama Fruit Garden, so that every school that we actually work with, and we want to actually target 17 million learners who are actually within the country, so that we plant the trees through what we call fruit arrangement of fruit garden, where we shall be able to have students planting the trees and adopting them. And we want to do the fruit one, like the macadamia, avocados, and the like, so that at the end of the day, you are conserving the environment, and at the same time, you are enhancing food security in this country. So that's exactly one of it. And then, by the way, with the women economic empowerment, we are 14,000 groups across the country. And we want to leverage on them, that we can be able to use the 14,000 women groups who are already organized into these groups in the table banking, and those are the people who can be able to really do tree planting across the country. And we are talking about the women.
Yeah.
You know, once the women decides to focus on something, you are sure that the results are going to be there.
Sure. How would you then be able to say, I mean, I'm looking at this 500 million trees, and everybody talks about planting trees now. But then growing trees and sustaining them is a totally different thing from just planting.
You're right.
How then are you going to be able to track this and then see that it's actually done, so that we're actually seeing movement around this? Because the things you mentioned are extremely important. And the things that groups where we look at the burden of care rests on families, units, women, etc., and for Mama Doing Good to say we're going into this sector, it's important that the result actually be seen. So how would you then be able to track and say for sure this is actually being done?
Thank you so much. As I said, we are actually using, one is actually for adopting the forest. If we adopt, for example, Kakamega Forest, you are sure that we are actually partnering with the Kenya Forest Service, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. And we working with the, this is actually a government or rather considered forest. And by the way, to make it right, is that adopting forests in this country is within the law. You can decide yourself and say, for example, that I want to adopt Abadea's forest, and I think that should actually come out clear, because sometimes when you talk about adopting, people say they are going to steal or you are taking over from the forest. So you just say, because you are supporting Kenya Forest Service. So when you do that, it goes without saying that we enter into an arrangement with Kenya Forest Service, and therefore to track the trees and to ensure that the trees actually grow to maturity is clear. Number two. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, number two is that we are actually using the schools. And one of the things that we ensure that we try as much as possible is to ensure that we start with the schools first, which have land. There are some schools which have very little land. But when you go outside there, they still have many schools with 2 acres, 3 acres and all that. And we leverage on them by actually using their land, and we ensure that the schools that we start with are actually those ones with, which are actually fenced. So you are sure that working with the Ministry of Environment, working with the Ministry of Education, we can be able to track and actually do monitoring in ensuring that those trees grow. I'm sure all of us went to primary schools, and you remember those days you would be told, this is your tree, and ensure that you adopt it, and every time it is a dry season, you just water. And you see, if you inculcate that kind of understanding, I'm sure we shall be able
among
to
the young children.
And this is actually what we are missing at the adult stage.
Let's take a break and then continue this conversation shortly, shall we? Yes. Dr. John Chumo is the CEO of Mama Doing Good. This is an initiative by the First Lady, Mama Rachel Ruto, on what she wants to see done in the community, especially on this one he's talking about today, environment and climate action, working on the strength of the table banking network that the First Lady has been working on for very many years, and saying how these groups, how can we use them to help us in climate adaptation and also climate mitigation measures. That's what we're discussing this morning. Time for that break at 28 minutes to 8. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys and walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Clear conditions in Nairobi this morning at 15, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 26 as well. In a partly cloudy Nakuru at 14. It's 12 and cloudy in Nyeri, highs of 25, and 24 will be the high In a mostly cloudy Eldoret at 13. 22 and partly cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well. In a partly cloudy Malindi at 23. It's 19 and cloudy in Kisumu, and mostly cloudy at 16 in Kakamega, going to highs of 27. Kampala is cloudy at 18, highs of 27, and Dar es Salaam will see highs of 29 in a partly cloudy Dar es Salaam. 10 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 9. And Lagos is cloudy at 25 with highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 33 in a partly cloudy Kinshasa at 23. All right, there's movements right around Cabanas. It's going in the direction of North Airport Road and then connecting to the Eastern Bypass, a little bit here and there, touching on the Outer Ring Junction. Jogo Road busy. Uhuru Highway now is packed up proper, getting out towards the CBD and then through towards Westlands. And we're seeing the same behaviour on the Thika Superhighway as well as Kiambu Road, which is back to back and bumper to bumper through from the DCI headquarters. We're looking at traffic on Limuru Road. It's heavy as well, coming out of Westlands, also doing the thing. We're in traffic hour proper now, and it's not, well, actually, it's taking all prisoners because everybody's moving very slowly getting into the city. Let's try and keep things moving. Be patient where you are. It'll end at some point. Then let's talk in the meantime on Spice FM KE on X.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings
done right. 94.4.
Mama doing good. It's Mama doing good and doing it the right way. It's not just Mama doing good. Exactly. Mama doing good and doing it the right way. An initiative by the First Lady of the Republic. We are talking about the initiative and the organization is doing about climate action. You've talked about adopting forests. I'll ask you a couple of questions on that. And you also talked of the Mama Fruit Garden, which is where you're looking at going into the schools and encouraging the schools to actually come up with fruit gardens. A couple of months back, we hosted the wife of the Israeli ambassador to Kenya, who is also in very many things in her own right, but people just look at, okay, she's the spouse of the Israeli ambassador. Yeah. But they were talking about what the Israeli government is doing and helping Kenya, working with the Kenya Forest Service and also the Mama Doing Good initiative on coming up with those fruit gardens and forests. Maybe to mention about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, first of all, I want to appreciate the government of Israel because of they have been a good friend of Kenya for the last 60 years. And all of us are aware that when you go to Israel, for example, we know it's more of a desert. But all in all, when you see our supermarkets, they are full of some of the products that come from there, especially the fruits and even some of the, even the tomatoes and even some milk also you find way from Israel. And that tells us that as a country, we can be able to borrow a lot from Israel because 80% of our country is an arid and semi-arid. And therefore, that is why we think that we can really do a lot of, because they don't depend on rain. They what you call rain-fed agriculture. They go in terms of irrigation, and therefore those are the technologies that we really need to borrow from them. And coming to the spouse of the ambassador of Israel, by the way, we were working with that because we have a partnership between the embassy and also Mama Doing Good, and there's also a tripartite with the Kenya Forest Service, and one of it is just to ensure that they assist us as part of, achieving the 500 million trees that we said. And one we chose, we are working across the country, but one that we have actually already started with is to work with the Machakos County. That Machakos decided, agreed with us to actually give some land for purposes of growing the trees. And what we did was to find out, or rather to agree with the Machakos County, because they are also ensuring that they do what you call urban forestry. like for example, the way we have Karura Forest here, they also want to create another one, which is actually next to their town or their city, and therefore one of the ways is to put up part of the land, and then we grow trees together, and through us. With the embassy, we are actually going to do some good number of trees within Machakos County, in particular around the town. And this is just one of the ways that we are actually saying that we need to reach the 15 billion. And we cannot reach 15 billion, but we need other partners. And in this case, Israelis are actually good friends of us.
When you have reached the point where you feel that what you had set out to do has been achieved, what will we see?
As a country, I mean, we have talked about the 15. What is the mission and what is the dream of His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto? One of it, if you look at this, the big plan, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, is to ensure that there is prosperity. And in this case, to ensure that we, the people of Kenya, enjoy what we are actually doing, especially in terms of agriculture, in terms of environment, in terms of water, and this kind of a thing. And one of it, to reach that, we are talking about increasing our forest cover. When we increase our forest cover, we mitigate climate change. And therefore, we are going to enhance food security in this country. We are going to ensure that we live a happy life, because effects of climate change, for real, Eric, you will agree with me that for the last 10 years, as a country, we have really experienced a lot. Look at, for example, the drought that I've just mentioned. How many people lost their livelihoods? How many, just go across here in Kitengela, and you would actually see a lot of carcasses of livestock. And you know, somebody in Kajiado depends on livestock, and when that actually when he loses that kind of 100 cows, for example, the livelihood is actually gone. When we go, for example, to parts of Eldoret or Wasingishu and North Rift, where we know it is actually the basket of this country, then you realize that with that effect of drought, we actually experienced a lot of big loss. We were able now to start having calling government to look for food from outside, and that actually interferes with our economy. And actually, as a result, we want to see also the other effect actually which has also come is about the diseases. Like climate change has actually caused serious upsurge of even some diseases that were not there before. Nairobi, for example, here, we didn't expect to have malaria, because we knew malaria is actually a disease that is normally found, or rather affects people along the lowlands. Like, for example, maybe like areas like coastal region, and even probably maybe along Lake Victoria region. But currently, you realize, for example, that because of the global warming, and this is actually climate change as it were, we are now experiencing even serious malaria and some even funny, mosquitoes. You are told, for example, there are mosquitoes that have actually, mutated from what it used to be to something else. And this is actually one of, it is very serious. And again, I'm talking about the issue of drought. You realize, for example, that our children, for example, there was a lot of good statistics showing that because of the drought, children left school because they could not. They started now, fending for themselves. We had problems of water levels. Some of the rivers that we used to depend on went so low to an extent that they were not even able to drive turbines to create, to produce power, and therefore, actually, as we continue seeing effects of climate change, we really need to do something, and that something is actually one of it is actually doing tree growing, and I say tree growing and not tree planting, because in the past we have done tree planting. That's why we were not making any step ahead.
You talk about these things, and that is indeed, and I think that was my next question, because some of the things you've talked about indeed are real challenges. And as we look at that, I mean, this is a climate year, everybody's talking, meeting, convening. But then one of the calls is that for, as much as we are coming together as countries, especially in Africa, that one of the calls is that for people on at a micro stage, do what they need to do to mitigate these effects. And so Mama Doing Good getting involved in these areas, apart from the tree growing and planting? Because you've established already that there are communities that have seen the effects. They've seen that, their sources for energy have been depleting over the years. They've seen that they cannot go to the river to get water anymore because, number one, it's contaminated, or the river has dried up. The drought was bad. People could not water or feed their animals. Yeah. So at that level, across the country, because you said Mama Doing Good is across the country, yeah. What is being done for people to actually, first of all, understand the reasons why this is happening in order to get them to act, to change, or to reverse the effects of climate change on the environment?
Thank you so much. I agree with you that before even you start planting, there should be actually awareness creation. And I want to say that there is continued awareness on matters to do with climate change, and also matters to do with the adaptation and mitigation of the same. Because I think through the media, through the schools, through the Ministry of Environment, through everybody, and we are actually part and parcel of that. And we are not also leaving the non-state actors, because I think you in this country, we also have, NGOs who are actually doing the same in ensuring that awareness is created. And I think for now, we are there as a country. Because if you go anywhere, whether you are in Omabe or, for example, you are in Marsabit, or where you are in Samburu, somebody is they're already realizing that it's no longer a myth. It's no longer, a boardroom affair. It's no longer academic. It is an issue, because you realize, for example, you are in a place, they say, in the last, for example, maybe this much in terms of the rain, it has actually reduced. Yeah. You come from a place when you were young and, taking care of our cows. We knew, for example, by 3, you'll be able to see rain. You'll feel, you'll start seeing the wind, and then the clouds, collecting, and within a short time, you see rain. But and it was actually coming from a specific direction. Yes. But nowadays, wherever you are, it can come from east, west. You can even just stay there and probably just eat some. Those are the kind of things we are talking about. The other thing is about the issue of when it comes to the issue of water levels. Look at, for example, River Yala, for example, River Nzoia, even Tana River. It has actually gone that low. And that's actually an example that there is something terribly wrong. And that's the issue of awareness creation on the matters to do with climate change. Even the older people at the village, they might not be calling it climate change, but they'll tell you there's something wrong with the environment in the language that they understand. And therefore, as Mama Doing Good, we actually try as much as possible to endeavor to actually reach to them through creation, like the way we are today, and also through schools and through churches, through meetings and seminars and conferences. But more so, we don't want even to still go to march on conferences and boardroom. We are actually going to the ground to ensure that the 14,000 women groups that are actually within the 47 counties ensures that we will be able to reach closer to the people. And that's actually where we can be able to leverage on them and actually bring awareness. Because those groups, they meet every Monday, for example, or once in a week, and through their meetings they can be able to pass more awareness. So the issue of awareness is not a big issue in this country. I think what we actually need to do, we have talked so much, is action. We need action. And actually that is actually from the national government all the way to the county government.
Talk action.
And no wonder we are here today.
As Mama Doing Good, how many trees have you planted so far in schools?
For the last because we began, this is the year for the last 1 year, because we less than
so let's say from January, the last 9 months, the last 8 months.
Yes, we are talking about 1 million.
1 million trees.
Yes.
In schools.
Yes,
this is a 1 million fruit trees.
Yes,
in how many schools?
So far, we are actually doing in across the country. That 1 million is actually inclusive, because those are not fruit gardens.
Okay,
they are part of the schools also do
other trees.
Within.
How many fruit gardens are we talking about?
So far we are at 50.
50 fruit gardens.
Yes, and then we in the next 1 or 2 months, because we already the problem was actually getting the seedlings. But we have arrangement We have a strategy, and when I come back in the next 2 months, we shall have done.
What is
much.
the strategy?
The strategy is that we have already worked with the Kenya Forest KEFRI and Kenya Forest Service, and we are already working with the ministry to ensure that we now we start the nurseries regionally,
yes,
so that we can be able to also give the students and also ensure that they can, because the challenge has been you go to some place, they don't have the seedlings. And that this is actually the thing that even the government has now come on board also through Kenya Forest Service and KFS to ensure that we invest a lot in actually establishing the nurseries.
So these nurseries that now you're doing, are they being set up in schools? Are they being set up by private farmers, or are they being set up by KFS and KEFRI?
We are doing three-pronged. One is actually working with the women groups. The same women groups will be able to supply the trees to the nearest schools.
Okay.
Then the other thing is, again, we are also getting students, or other schools, coming up with nurseries. We are going to, for example, to every county, we are going to establish what we call a model nursery. And we're working with FAO to ensure that we have a model nursery with many trees that we are going to plant that will supply the surrounding.
Okay.
And then, and ensure that even a school, as it were, can be able to have a nursery.
Okay. Yeah. How is Mama Doing Good funded?
Yes. That's a good question. This is just a foundation. And being a foundation, the support, I've talked about the issue of we have our women. The funding comes from what we do with the issue of table banking, the other thing of the development partners. Yeah. The
funding for Mama Doing Good comes from the proceeds of table banking around the country.
You know this is what I would say. If you look at the groups that we have, the activities that they do, women themselves, out of whatever they do in terms of table banking, there is also proceeds that come out of that. And whatever they do, that comes out of it is actually structured in a way that it is actually plowed back to what they do. That's one of the streams. Okay. Number two is actually the issue of friends. Because development partners would be able to get Eric, who would be generous enough to say that they want to support something on maybe tree planting, and you actually give their trees, and you can say you want to support some nursery development or establishment, or for example you would want to, for example, support transiting of women from use of the biomass to green cooking.
So those are donations.
Yeah, donations.
So those are the two sources of income.
Yes.
Just again to be clear.
Yeah.
Mama Doing Good is a foundation.
Yes.
Registered as a foundation.
Yes.
Not an office established under the presidency. It's not getting public funding at all.
You know, Office of the First Lady in any country is not. You won't say, for example, that it is funded. If it is an office itself of Excellency, being an institution within the presidency, has obviously the support of from Exchequer for the office, but not when it comes to the issue of programs. Okay. Programs in anywhere, even if you look at any other, Office of the First Lady is complementary. They are not given development any funds to ensure that they compete with the other ministries. They complement. You complementary. That means they get support from friends and using the goodwill
of others.
Yes.
As a foundation.
As a foundation.
So, for example, Dr. Chumo is paid by the foundation.
Yes.
Is employed by the foundation.
Yes.
Paid by the foundation.
Yes.
Mama Doing Good is then also audited independently.
Yes.
Is not subject to auditing by the Auditor General.
It's not. It's not
a state office.
It's not a state office. Yes.
Okay.
In the year 2000, from the year 2001 to 2022, in Kenya we lost the equivalent of 11% of our forest cover.
Yes.
Now, 1.8 billion trees would more or less give us 10%, meaning we'll be able to recover 10% of that. Now, we have Kenya Forest Services, we have the research arm, we have schools, we have the ministry, we have the women groups. Now, what stops Mama Doing Good from working with the Ministry of Education so that when you talk about trees, it becomes part and parcel of our curriculum, so that it is actually something that you do. If children understand this need as children, right from primary school, imagine when they get to secondary school and they already understand this thinking. Imagine what they will do when they go to their homes. You will find children with projects. The CBC children go home with projects. I haven't heard of children going home with projects to plant trees or to plant things. Now imagine if this was part of what was inculcated in the youth. Because this forest cover wasn't lost in a day, and to regain it, it also won't be regained in a day. Ancient creatures like myself aren't really a good target. People who are young, who have the future ahead of them, will be the people who realize this dream.
That is extremely right, because and that's actually what we are doing as Mama Doing Good, to ensure that we actually reach as much as possible to the schools, to the children, because we believe when you work with the children, when you actually expose children to matters to do with the conservation, then you get it right. Because these are people who are actually very young, and they would still actually understand that when they plant trees, they're actually doing it for the sake of this country and for their sake, because the future is theirs. The future is actually lies on the what we do for the next generation. We always say that this world we inherited from our children, not from our forefathers and foremothers. We inherited from the children, and that's why we are saying that once we leave the space. When we exceed the platform, what will happen is that there is a generation that comes, and that generation that bequeathed us the space should be able to get it an environment that is actually okay, which is actually has no problem in terms of climate change. And therefore, I agree with you totally that when we start working with the children as early as formative stages in nursery schools and primary schools, and then secondary schools, and then also introduce what you call the curriculum, so that when they are taught, at the same time they practice in terms of planning. Issues to do with, for example, circular economy or waste management. You find, for example, today, all of us, we are adults, but you will find, for example, along the road, you will find somebody driving, you eat maybe probably peel off a banana, and then you just draw. You just go straight away, you are eating something, you just do the same. And it's just a whole Eric or say like him. You can imagine what we are actually talking about. This is actually, but if you have if we have a curriculum that has actually been inculcated in the education system, they will tell you this is not right. This is not what you are taught. You remember the children are always, when they come back home, you tell them to do, they say, no, that's not the way you are taught. Even the way we spell things and the way we pronounce, that's not the way we are actually taught. So even the issues of climate, mitigation and adaptation, then we should actually be able to start straight away from as early as, nursery school. And I think I want to agree with you that at least the Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Environment are working very closely. If you look at the acts, even the Education Act, it has got some aspect of conservation. What you only need to do is just to implement. By the way, on 7th, that will be tomorrow, we are actually launching what you call First Lady's Masingira Award, where, for example, we want to bring on board the children as early as nursery to participate in a competition. Like the way you normally, you are aware that there is competition of music festival, drama, football and the like. We also want to say that let us start having part of the extracurricular activities in our curriculum system, where, for example, we have children who are actually, we say, for example, at the beginning of the year, we give a theme that, for example, write a story in that, a composition or an incha about, for example, how to conserve environment. And children are exposed to them. They start, researching. They even start talking with their parents, talking with their brothers, their neighbors and all that, and they write a good story. Once they write the story, it is actually marked at the school level. Then it goes actually to the sub-county, it goes to the county, it goes to the regional, and finally it culminates to national. And it is a process for the whole year. If you do that, even for the next 5 years, then that problem of children are being left outside the conservation will not be there again.
You create a lot of awareness.
So I'm also inviting you tomorrow. We are actually launching it at the KICC.
Okay.
after the
First Lady's Pavilion.
Yes, she's going to be the chief guest, and we are expecting the ministers of education and environment and other guests coming to launch this.
Okay. Good initiatives that are being spearheaded here by the Office of the First Lady. Good to understand that it's a foundation. I'd have wanted to know, under foundation, we are running out of time, under foundation, what's the governance structure? Do you have trustees? Are they in place? What's the accountability mechanism? When people are actually contributing and donating towards this, how do they know?
I mean, it is within the structure of any foundation.
Okay.
And it is actually within the law. So it is, all those things are actually done. But I would, maybe if you get time, we'll talk about the African Climate Summit, what we expect.
Okay. We'll come to the end of this particular hour. Thank you very much, Dr. Chumo, for joining us and for telling us the work that you've been doing as the Mama Doing Good, an initiative by the First Lady. Dr. John Chumo is the CEO. Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning, it's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. More than 500 MPs from across Africa are this morning convening at Parliament buildings to discuss legislative interventions to mitigate effects of climate change. The Africa Climate Change Parliamentary Dialogue meeting is part of the inaugural Africa Climate Summit that comes to an end today. The conference, which started on Monday, has seen several heads of state and government and key dignitaries attend the high-level conference staged at the KICC. Approximately 42,000 Kenyans suffering from TB were not included in the report of the Ministry of Health for the year 2022. A report by the Department of the National Tuberculosis and Lung Disease Program states that there is a possibility of these patients infecting their colleagues unknowingly and thus causing an increase in TB infection in the country. The report further indicates that the WHO has said that approximately 133,000 people in the country may be suffering from TB. This event comes as 9 counties, among them Vihiga, Murang'a, Marsabit, Kajiado, Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, Kiambu, Nyeri and Garissa, have recorded a 28% increase in TB cases. Cane farmers from the Nyando sugar belt have opposed the proposal to merge state-owned millers in Kisumu. The government has proposed the merger of Chemilil and Muhoroni and Miwani sugar companies as part of the sector reforms. Muhoroni MP Onyango Okoh, who led the farmers, argued that the merger would not address the challenges facing the factories, but instead worsen their plight. Okoh further said the factory machines are dilapidated and this was hurting production, urging the government to purchase new machines for the 3 factories instead of hiding behind the merger. Some Kenyans who had their eyeballs scanned to register for the cryptocurrency project WorldCoin now say they are experiencing health issues. Even more, some of the victims now claim that they were shortchanged and did not receive the 7,000 shillings that had been promised for signing up as a new WorldCoin user, but instead were only given 2,000 shillings. Testifying before the National Assembly Ad Hoc Committee of Inquiry into the WorldCoin controversy, one of the witnesses submitted that after undergoing the scan, he started experiencing eye problems and had to seek medical assistance.
They promised us some money when we registered to the app, around $70, and they never told us the process of how to withdraw the money from the app. About the health hazards, I only had some watery eyes after the scanning only.
CBK Governor Kamau Thuge on his part said that they have no details on the amount of money transacted from the crypto project. He added that the farm was probably allowed to operate as cryptocurrency isn't illegal in the country.
So I think we are adequately prepared for looking into new innovations. And I think even from the past, the central bank has really been at the front of new technologies and innovations while taking into account the risks.
Kenya Power has said certain areas across the 10 counties will go without power for the better part of today to allow for routine maintenance. Managing Director Joseph Siror says the scheduled power interruption will be effected as early as any time from now in some areas until as late as 5 p.m. this evening. Siror adds that areas to be affected are in the counties of Kiambu, Machakos, Narok, Kirinyaga, West Pokot, Isiolo, Nyeri, Homa Bay, Kisii and Uasin Gishu. The Law Society of Kenya has suffered a setback after the High Court set aside orders suspending a decision by the government to import 125,000 metric tons of cooking fat. Justice John Thigiti dismissed the matter on the grounds that the evidence obtained by the LSK to support its case was done illegally. LSK had produced a letter by the PS Treasury dated January 30th which approved the duty-free importation of cooking fat. It also produced a departmental circular from the Commissioner for Customs and Border Control implementing the duty-free clearance for the product. Justice John said the court lacked jurisdiction to determine the matter based on illegally acquired documents. And in the international scene, East African leaders have agreed to extend the mandate of regional military force deployed to quell violence in the strife-torn east of the Democratic Republic of Congo to December 8th, pending an evaluation report. The seven-nation East Africa community first sent troops into the volatile region in November last year after the resurgence of the M23 rebel group. The future of the deployment had been in doubt after DR Congo President Felix criticized the force, but the EAC decided in June to keep the troops on the ground for another 3 months. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Congratulations. You've seen the hand of the Lord. Thank you very much. I've earned another title today, this morning at Spice FM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it.
Joel in Kericho.
Salama sana Heri, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama bwana, mambo namna gani?
Salama kabisa bro.
Mambo ya Inamoi kuliendaje?
Mambo ya Inamoi, vile nilikwambia ndugu yangu, alienda asubuhi na ile gari ya kwanza.
I must have missed it.
So did I.
Even if somebody was to render you irrelevant, there is still work you can do. Okay, sawa.
I deserve to keep you accountable. You deserve to give me a report. You don't work for me. I don't work for you. You work for me.
Do you like that Freudian slip?
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, a few minutes after 8 o'clock and still busy. We're now looking at traffic coming in from Nairobi Expressway, touching on Cabanas a little bit. Folks, there might be a problem there. We'll have to check that out because there's some traffic and it's bumper to bumper. We're also looking at movement then on the Eastern Bypass. This is Magadi Road, touching on Langata Road, and we'll look at busyness all the way through that. A little bit of traffic then coming out towards Raila Odinga Way and then Uhuru Highway. Uhuru Highway, the busiest right about now. Actually, that's not true because look at Maranga Road and look at that coming in from the Thika Super Highway, also on Kiambu Road. Very, very busy. Everybody's touching on that and coming in then into the CBD. It's busy coming out of Westlands. Limuru Road is crazy. Everywhere you look, there's traffic this morning. We are in traffic hour proper, and it's going to take patience and a little bit more to get out of this one today. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X as we keep things moving this Wednesday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
8 minutes after 8.
This
How
is
are
the
you
Situation
doing?
Room.
It's, on to the third hour of the Situation Room this Wednesday morning, 6th day of September 2023. You heard that news item by Leah when Leah was reading the news. One of the people who took their eye to be thingy.
They took their eye. Like they removed their eye, transported
took
it.
the eye, and they looked into this orb. And since then, problems. The eyes are tearing non-stop. They are losing sight. And it's because they looked into this WorldCoin thing. And in fact, they even paid 2,000 bob instead of the 7,000. I'll 7,000, but 7,000.
I didn't see 7.
I only got
The problem
2.
is I didn't see 7,000.
I didn't see 7.
So now I'm not seeing other things.
Yeah.
You know, we have to become serious.
And these people are actually speaking in Parliament and telling members of Parliament, this is what has happened. This is my experience.
Can we have them examined medically so that we can determine exactly what has gone wrong with the eyes? Because when you
And
do
how
that,
many are they?
yes, then you'll be able, because if there's a damage, you can then go into the where to force of how it is that damage was arrived at, and then you can also understand what that orb then does. If indeed it is the orb that has done that.
And if we look at the number of people who have now started to experience these symptoms, you must take that number. This guy is the researcher, so he'll tell you. You must take that number and you must place it against the whole number of people who actually went to have the.
How do we know how many people went?
Yes, exactly. It's the orb people who have the numbers, not us.
The only ones who know.
Now that's what you do. You call them out and you say, "Excuse me, anybody who went, please come out. 1, 2, 3."
No, these Kenyans
people who
will think you want a
have eye
refund. They're not going to.
If you orbited,
Refund.
come.
If you orbited, come. Refund. The only thing they
Kenyans.
did is take their eye.
No, they were given money.
They were
Kenyans, we're a suspicious people.
People think
Or people think that you want to tell them to bring the
to
money
return
back.
the money, yes.
Yeah. Or you want to
come
take action against them. Now that this whole thing was declared illegal, was declared wrong, was declared, now I
you
come
want
back
to
and
arrest
say,
them.
yeah.
So these people who are speaking, how many are they?
But even
Quite a number.
But this illegality, surely.
Which one exactly?
Yeah, whatever it is, they went through the process and they were properly. Were they not licensed by the Communication Authority?
To do what exactly? That's the thing.
That's the thing they were doing.
It's what license did they seek and what exactly were they doing?
Should I'm going with this. Should the Communication Authority not come out clearly?
Not Communication Authority. It's the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner.
Iki to see communication. Data protection.
Yes.
Wako ministry gani?
Yeah, information and ICT.
Oh, na communication is in information.
Sawa basi.
Data Commissioner's Office.
So who gives the licenses?
The Data Commissioner.
Commissioner's office. At the end of the day, it's information and data you're collecting one way or another.
So communication doesn't come into this?
Well, something communicated with the orb in the pair 7,000. Lakini hatuoni kama CA had anything to do with it.
Are you guys sure?
That what exactly? You just want to put CA somewhere.
I don't know. Are you sure? Okay.
Nesa sawa. There are very many other regulatory bodies. Oh, they are collecting. It's about money. It's about.
They're collecting money.
It's about trading in the country.
Okay, that's scary, no?
Is a Central Bank of
That's
Kenya aware that you're trading
in money?
Trading in money.
Central Bank, do they know?
CC just wants to ask now. He's leading to the banks.
Basically, if anybody went and looked into that thing and you're experiencing a thing,
Talk to
City is advising, why don't you just go get checked?
Get checked. Get checked so that it's determined.
Let's not dismiss them just like that.
No, let the
In as
eyes
much
be
as we're
checked.
highly tempted to,
No.
let's just not.
Let's find out what exactly is happening to the eyes.
Yes.
Then the experts will tell you, the way your eye is now looking up and down.
To look left to right.
Because of the orb. It is the orb. Ulipoa ngapi? Wale walipoa 7,000.
Okay, no. See? It's the 2,000 shilling people who got problems. Then you ask, are there any people who pay 1,000?
And then they're saying, they were asked, so why were you exactly looking into this thing? Actually, they wanted to make sure that the people who were looking into this thing are human beings. That's why. Is anybody who's looking into this thing a human being? That is why we're being told, look into this thing. Yeah. To establish that, number one, you're a human being. And then number two, after you're a human being, we give you money. Because we don't want to give money to non-human beings.
To robots. Or to artificial intelligence.
Okay. Let's have a conversation now about sports in the country. And one of the things that we've seen recently is the Cabinet Secretary for Sports. It's sports, youth, and...
Gender.
Not gender. Not gender. It's... it used to be...
Arts.
Arts. It's sports, youth, and arts. Yes. Arts is gender. Yes. It is. So... The Cabinet Secretary was in Parliament the other day, and he was facing members of the National Assembly. And among those people who were talking outside of the National Assembly was the Senator for Nandi County, Cherargei, and he now joins us. Senator, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
It's been some time.
It's been a while.
Senator, that's a dapper suit.
Thank you. Yes. You know, we are hosting the African Summit, so we must remove our Sunday best. You know, when we are growing up, when when you have guests, unatoa ile masahani kapati ile ya wageni.
Yes.
So that is what is happening with the country at the moment. Yeah.
We are putting out our best foot forward, best show.
Best foot forward.
Wageni wakienda,
yes.
We can
default
go back.
Settings.
Yeah, we can go back to
go back. Yes, default settings. Welcome to the Conversation City.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why don't you welcome the Senator with the day's proverb, courtesy of Chai Kweli.
Courtesy of Chai Kweli.
To confirm that the tea was great, I hope after this I will still get it.
Yeah.
When I was invited, I prepared my appetite for the same.
Chai Kweli, the dairy best.
What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
Master here being M-A-S-T-E-R, not M-U-S-T-E-R. Yes.
Senator.
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Is this a very appropriate proverb?
No, it isn't.
What comes out of the mouth has lost its master.
And I think also the Bible says that for us who are Christians, the tongue has power of life and death. And I think in an African setting, we use the mouth to bless and curse at the same time. So it cuts across. So what comes out, they say that what the mouth speaketh is what the heart has, or the mind
out
has.
Of the abundance of the heart,
yes,
the
out
mouth
of
speaks.
the abundance of the heart.
The mouth speaks.
Yes, the mouth conveys. And they say if you want to know the truth of a person is when they have taken something that people take in the evening.
Libations.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can hear what they speak about.
In cultural establishments.
Correct. Especially towards December,
yes.
From where I come from.
That's when the truth comes out.
Yeah, that's when the truth comes out.
So we should start looking for them in December.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Senator, ukirudi kwenu nyumbani, especially where you grow tea and all.
Yes.
And there's Kenyan tea.
Yes.
Alafu kuna maziwa.
Yes.
Chai mzuri ni ile kuna maziwa mingi.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Na ile maziwa best ni dairy best. It's long life. Long
because
life
you
milk.
Don't need to put in a fridge
yes.
and water because electricity is expensive. So
very good.
Yeah. So you cut down costs.
Yes, by just buying that long life milk, dairy best.
Yes,
is the one.
Yes.
Now the issue of sports.
Yes.
You have been out there on your social media and any other platform that you can find.
Yes.
Raising concern about what you're seeing in the Ministry of Sports. Yes. We've called it Sports, Youth and Arts. What's your issue?
Good morning, and it's good to have me. I know when you say Cherargei is coming to discuss about sports, many people doubt that it should not be Cherargei because there are some people who believe it is their preserve. From the onset, I want to say that as a leader, I'm elected by cross-sectional. From PWDs, the youth, women, the marginalized, the sportsmen and women also vote. And the reason I'm here, and I've been very vocal, is as a country, we cannot hire all the young people. So we must protect opportunities outside white-collar jobs. And more specifically to be sports. Where I come from, our economy thrives on only two main economic activities. That's farming, and you heard me making noise last December over maize. And then at least those issues were rectified. We are now set, and we are waiting for government to give us the price for maize. Number two is sports. When you go to Iten, Eldoret, Kapsabet, Nandils, the entire of North Rift and South Rift, and even Kisii and part of Meru rely heavily on athletics and sports. So it is an important discipline for us. In fact, whenever I meet, and most of my friends like Conseslus Kipruta, Eliud Kipchoge, the famous coach Patrick Sang, we normally sit and discuss. And these are people who are within, don't mind about my weight, within, we I don't want to say we practice together, but we normally take tea together most of the time. So these are people that I live with them and I see their struggles. By the time you see Faith Kipyegon learning like a legendary, those are people who are waking up at 3 a.m. and they are not night runners. They are training to win gold. So when you hear somebody somewhere sitting in Nairobi in an air-conditioned office and just wishing it away, or then the serious issues what we are raising, we take an offense because it's our lifeline. And we have the sports itself, we have sports tourism. You see people like Mo Farah come to Iten, high altitude to come and train. There are people who want just to come even to Kenya to see this country where we have the world beaters, the Omanyalas, the Wanyonyi, the Moras, the Kibiagons of this country, the famous from Rhodesia. For example, since 1969, we have never been defeated on 3,000 meters triple chase. We were humiliated in Budapest. So they were saying if we can beat Kenya, then it is not impossible. What we thought is impossible. So my issue is about the management of sports in generality. I'm not talking about athletics, even football. And I want to wish Harambee Stars all the best. I'm told they are flying today to Qatar. We celebrated the Malkia Strikers. They won, and everybody wanted to us to say, are you aware Malkia Strikers have to pay 80,000 per day to train in Kasarani? But when they won, everybody was saying, oh, hurrah. This is they have won. So in fact that interview, and I want to refer you because even it's a public domain. Coach Paul Pitog, when he was hosted by one of the stations, I don't know whether I should mention or not so that I don't advertise anybody.
Please go ahead and mention
at the NTV. Yes. When he appeared on Sports Agenda NTV, he mentioned. So these are issues that we are telling the CS and the Ministry of Sports they must fix. Number two, the issue of federations. He came to Parliament and told us that, federations, we can't interfere. Because if we interfere, FIFA or any other World Athletics organization will say we are interfering with federations. But are you aware these federations are led by people who have stayed longer than Mugabe? And these people, we give them budget in Parliament. But you cannot come and tell us we can't oversight the same federations, yet they're using you and mine and everybody's money to run those federations. Then what is the role of the ministry? Because they were telling us it's untouchable. We can't touch FKF, we can't touch Athletics Kenya, we can't touch Volleyball Federation, and many other federations.
Including motorsports.
Including motorsports, even football. Are you aware these people are allocating more money to football than even the mainstream disciplines of sports? So my concern has always been, even another factor is on the sports fund. I'm told there is a new CEO, the acting Wambugu actor for almost 6 years, left office. No one has done an audit of what sports fund did. You and me, there is a lot of money that goes to the sports fund from donations, from the budget of government. But do you know that sports fund is not ring-fenced? Somebody can go to sports fund, take the money from sports fund and take it to the church as an offering, or take it to the campaign. These are some of the legislative interventions that I expect that the CS and Ministry of Sports to bring to Parliament and tell us, guys, can you amend the Sports Act, ring-fence the sports fund? But they should thank God because I've already made an amendment proposal before the Legislative Directorate of the Senate to ring-fence the sports. Another factor that we are talking about is the doping menace in this country. If we are not careful, we might go the route of Russia, where our young men and women will be banned. And these are important because we want our young people to run clean. But are you aware the ministry, and I sponsored a motion that was adopted early this year on the anti-doping menace in the country, that you're aware that this doping happens as a small village somewhere in Kapsabet. You go to a pharmacy, some of these doctors participate. What I was proposing, we are creating a criminal enterprise. Even the KPMDU should register some of the nurses and doctors participating in the process. In fact, the agents and coaches who encourage our young men and women to use doping substances, they should also be declared, be banned from the country. They should be charged by the DCI and even EACC. The rogue agents, are you aware in this country, somebody chats in, here JKI goes to Iten and starts training our young people without proper documentation. Another factor, number 4, so that I finish, I'm passionate about sports.
Clearly.
Is that, can you believe if you want to travel to run for your race in Japan, you have to travel all the way to AK offices here in Nairobi, and even to the immigration office. And these are young people who do not have money. So if you are in Eldoret and you pick North, you'll travel 6 hours, come and wait for almost 3 days hanging around. Those days should have been used to train. So what we are proposing, let the clearance letters and the processes be devolved to Kisii, to Eldoret, to Meru, so that many people do not come around here. Finally, on team selection, because what happened in Budapest, I've seen people saying that since we are top in Africa, then we have done well. We have not done well. There was a time we were number 2 in the entire world. We did badly in Budapest. In Budapest. This is only the golden girls, the power of women that saved this country, the embarrassment that we have suffered.
Those 2 girls.
Those 2, and even what came out, it's motivation. I talked to some of at least, and I want to protect their identity to avoid victimization, is that they were promised to be paid $300 per day. They were only given $60 per day. And that is why most of them were demoralized. If you do, because this was a 57-member team, the $240, if you calculate, it comes around 27 million in those days that they were in Budapest. These are some of the issues that motivation. Finally, on the reward scheme, I want to thank the President, Dr. William Ruto. He has shown the goodwill in giving the reward. But my proposal is very simple. Since you have political goodwill, I would have expected the CS and the Ministry of Sports to give us a proposal on how to set the standard of reward system. For example, we can say when you win gold, or when like Malkia or football, we should award you head of state commendation or EGH. We should give you maybe 50% of what you won. We should give you tax-free on winnings. But here in this country, we reward somebody who carries a kiteri to go and vote, and we leave a golden girl like Faith Kipyegon. Faith Kipyegon should be given the highest award honor in this republic. Should be given even free parking. Should be recognized in some of the roads and recognition. So I expected the amendment on the issue of recognition, the amendment on award system. Apart from the monetary value, you can see what Museveni is doing. He's giving a car, he's giving a house and land, and if you are not married or yet to be married, you get the wife and the wife. So I'm not saying we legislate on such, because those are matters of the heart and they are very complicated.
All those things.
Yes.
No, God.
Yeah. I mean, look, all of these things that you've talked about, Claire, they did not start this year. They've not even started with the appointment of a new CS. These are perennial problems that have been within the sports fraternity in this country for a very long time. And they can be found really in many other countries where you go to. Nobody needs to tell us that sports men and women can be the greatest ambassadors for a country no matter what they do. Right? We know Kenya has a host of talent across disciplines. Look at your rugby, look at football, look at athletics, volleyball. Look at swimming, look at volleyball, doesn't matter. But something is wrong inherently. And my question is, what is that? Because if we know the what, then members of parliament, when they go to debate in the House, then can tackle that. The CS and the many departments that are necessary to look at this can then tackle that. It's an emotional thing, so we tend to get riled up, but what is it that needs to be fixed? Because if we don't fix the problem, if we don't look at the core problem, we can talk for years and nothing is actually going to be done. So even if members of parliament are going before the House or are saying make an amendment to this, make an amendment to this, what is the problem?
The problem, how to fix the problem is one. What you have mentioned, one is number one is legislative and policy interventions. If you have realized the issues I have raised, is we must anchor in law and policy to make it easier for some of these issues to be handled. Like even sports fund, for example, is a good fund, but can you believe it's run through regulations? So what we should be doing is we should ring fence to specifically support the systems. For example, do you know Nike and Athletics Kenya have a contract? That contract, no one knows the details. Are you aware we are given donations of the training kits from 12 years, junior and senior, but most of the officials are keeping them in the house, and that is why I was challenging EACC and DCI to go to some of these officials. Even Nike being the main sponsor of our team, they see us on several occasions, and not being personal. If you see the photos that you are journalist, photojournalist, he wears Adidas. So at the end of the day, we must be in a country remain focused. One is legislative and policy intervention. Number two is to root out corruption in the Ministry of Sports.
Okay.
Na mambo ni matatu.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Those three sound.
Yeah, those three.
But then,
no, I'm not threatening anybody. But I'm not saying the three that you know. I wanted to say the three that I know.
there's a new three.
Yes, there is a new three.
Tell us.
The issue of corruption is one. We must push for elections in federations.
Okay.
I'm aware there are court cases. But we must push, because I've told you there are people who have stayed there longer than Mugabe.
In every federation.
In every federation. There is a court case. Then there is a problem somewhere. And therefore I expect that a federation should have elections. Number two, we should do forensic and special audit on the funds that we have allocated as a country through the budget, and also donations, like even kitties, training kitties, and other capacity. Number four, in fixing this, especially on the issue of corruption, is audit the sports fund. Because apparently sports fund was being misused, where you are finding people. Are you aware sports fund was being used to pay petroleum levy fund?
It isn't a story of the past. It is not was.
Yes.
Has that loophole been sealed?
No, I believe with the appointment of a new CEO, I hope, in fact, is he called Nuro, somebody, I didn't get his name. I hope he's wise enough to ensure, because by the way, under the law,
you can the fund. The fund is collected and the money goes to the treasury. If the money is not ring fenced,
that is the point. That is why now, as a parliament, we must move with speed. And you cannot tell me somebody who has been in office 1 year cannot fix it. How long do you need to fix some of these things? Because I have seen the argument
that's what I was asking. Senator,
yes,
you know, you have been in Parliament longer than Ababu Namwamba has been at the Sports Ministry.
Correct.
Or even the new who's the new PS now in the for sports?
Toom.
Yes, or Dr. Toom. Dr. Toom has barely been there for 3 months. All right. So, should these things not have been you raising issues of this is what we need to do, and then setting the stage and saying, this is what the Ministry of Sports ought to be doing. This is what I propose that we do as Parliament. This is what I propose that we do to make sure that these federations, the international sports bodies, are not running our federations on our behalf.
Yes.
When you have a sports act that talks about our federations.
Correct.
This is what you should be doing as a legislator.
I agree with you.
But it sounds like you're going just personal on
I'm not.
You are
fact,
appointed the other day.
I have been expecting that question since I walked in here. But I want to say this. If you have archives, if you have been keen, in the last session I made a lot of noise about sports.
You did.
If you have been very keen, but I didn't have political goodwill. Now we have a president who listens and listens. You and me know, even on the fight against